All of us old school West Wing fans, I think we need to go back and revisit The American President. All right, everybody. So today I'm revisiting The American President. It came out in 1995, directed by Rob Reiner, written by Aaron Sorkin, and starring Michael Douglas, Annette Bening, Martin Sheen, Michael J. Fox. And it is very much a precursor to the West Wing series. The premise of the movie is basically we have a widower as of the President of the United States, Andrew Shepard, played by Michael Douglas. And he is courting and begins a relationship with the character played by Annette Bening. And then through political intrigue, through all of the processes even of Washington and how laws get made and how people are character assassinated, you see how this romance is not the easiest of things to maintain between both characters. And so it's a really interesting take because even though there might have been, there was the old musical that came out a long time ago, The King and I, with Yul Brynner, but there was never one handled with such care, such earnestness, and such artistry and subtlety. Aaron Sorkin, my favorite writer of all time as far as TV and movies, I think he's absolutely the best. And to see him at this early in his career, I think this was his third movie that he'd been part of writing, after A Few Good Men and Malice. And he just wrote this incredible piece where he really was found a way to solidify his style very early on. It takes writers a long time to kind of figure out, how they're going to develop characters and how the story is going to unfold. But he's definitely one of those that kind of understood what he wanted from not just the characters and, of course, the dialogue. And that's very much evident in the whole narrative. You understand what everyone's motivations are. They outline them very clearly. And so even though you might not like the characters, Richard Dreyfuss, I think, is the closest one that plays the antagonist, Senator Bob Rumson. And he's the one, he will be running for president at some point in the story, and he's doing what politicians do, is like attacking, the reputation and the character of people that are associated with his opponent, in this case, President Andrew Shepard. And some of that is very, par for the course in politics, although in a way that is still, maybe romantic or charming, because, as things are with politics these days, it's just way more chaotic, way more incendiary. And so to kind of go back and revisit and think, oh, wow, this is how things used to be, it didn't seem so bad, even though it probably was at the time for the people of that time. But now it just kind of seems like, if we think back to how things were in elementary school, for us it was a huge thing, but now as we're growing up as adults, it really wasn't that bad. So there's this bit of nostalgia, I guess, that is also associated with how politics used to be. And Aaron Sorkin has this amazing way of writing idealistically and romantically, because when you see The American President and then later on The West Wing, you kind of know it's nonsense, because you don't think for a second that politicians really care on that level. Really, most, if not all of them, are just trying to save their own behinds and keep their jobs and rise up the ranks and are very ambitious. And the needs of the people of that country, of the citizens, really are way down on the priority list. Whereas with, all the politicians and people that are working for them in this movie and in the West Wing series, the needs of the citizens of the country come first, and that's kind of just a nice thing to ruminate on and to imagine and wish that that's how things were in reality. So there is, when the movie is over, you kind of have that honeymoon period of, oh man, I wish things were like that. And then reality slowly kind of slaps you hard in the face of how politicians really do operate in the world. Having said that, it's still an incredible story, how it all does its Rob Reiner, I believe, at his finest. It really made me miss Rob Reiner, especially from his early and mid-career. Everything from Spinal Tap to When Harry Met Sally, A Few Good Men, and The American President. He just had a way of putting the visuals to the script that is very inviting, very warm, and familiar, even though like these are people in the highest echelons of decision making for an entire nation, yet the people still feel relatable. They feel like your dad or your uncle or your sister or your aunt or your wife even. And that is something that not every director can do. Not every single Aaron Sorkin script can actually be executed in a way that is as well done as Rob Reiner, with the exception, I think, of Aaron Sorkin, who has now recently, taken on the role of director, aside from just being the writer of the script. And you can kind of see how, guys like Rob Reiner that he worked for in the past have influenced his style in the present. So it's definitely worth a watch. Some of the most incredible monologues you'll ever hear in any movie, especially that final monologue that Andrew Shepard gives, in the press briefing room. It just tugs at your heartstrings. It gets you in the feels, absolutely, whether you're into politics or not. And it really is just, a fun time and a great story and excellent filmmaking. Anyways, those are my thoughts. What about you guys? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Smash that like button, click subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.